Welcome to NFL Starts and Ends. I'm your host, Jacob. And after week 7, there's a bunch of things we have to get into. Let's first begin with the NFL officiating, specifically how bad it has been. But let's talk about in the terms of this week to begin. We have, and I didn't watch this whole game. It was bonus coverage. I was busy watching the Bills vs. Patriots, which we will get into. But in this game was between the Colts and the Browns. The Browns and the Colts were fighting it out. And the Browns were driving down the field. Colts were up by 5. The Browns need a touchdown. They get into the red zone where Amari Cooper goes and runs a great route. And there's a flag thrown. They were unable, and by unable, I mean PJ Walker, who came in for Deshaun Watson after Watson left with a concussion, was cleared, did not return in the game. Goes, gets hit, ball goes free. It's recovered by the Colts. It looks like it's game over, but they call illegal contact. And what you see is Amari Cooper go and run his route. The Colts defender reach out and Amari Cooper runs his route. They called illegal contact because the Colts defender does, in fact, touch Amari Cooper. His hand gets to him, hits Amari Cooper. But my thing was, it doesn't redirect Amari Cooper. It's not like the defender of the Colts did not allow Cooper to run his route. He didn't affect the route in any way. But it gives the Browns the first down. So it's not a turnover. Game's not over. The Browns get another chance. It's first down. After a couple great plays by the defense of the Colts, we get to a third down. Walker drops back. Looks like he's throwing the ball away. Incomplete. Flag. Pass interference. Only, though, it wasn't pass interference. It wasn't pass interference at all. You see, the ball wasn't catchable. Walker's throwing the ball out of bounds. But here's the reason why I'm saying it wasn't a catchable ball. The ball's being thrown out of bounds. Where it lands is too far for the wide receiver to get to. Okay? It was not like he threw it for the back line in the end zone. It was too high and it was too far. And so they throw this flag. So that's my first ridicule of it. My second ridicule of it is when was this wide receiver going to catch this ball? When? If you're saying he had a chance to catch it prior to the ball hitting the backstop or hitting where the stands were, you're incorrect. Because the closest that wide receiver got to that ball, the wide receiver was 2 or 3 steps out of bounds. So even if he would have caught it, he's out of bounds. He's 3 or 4 yards out of bounds. And he's stepping out of bounds. Meaning it would have been illegal touching no matter what. But that's the point I'm trying to make. So, was it pass interference? Yes, the Colts defender did grab him. But it wasn't catchable. It wasn't like the Colts defender shoved the wide receiver out of bounds. It wasn't like the ball was a good enough throw so the wide receiver could have got it if he wasn't grabbed. It wasn't like the Colts defender was not looking at the ball. All these things that we classify as pass interference, the Colts defender does not do. The ball is just, it's not a good throw. It's thrown out of bounds. The wide receiver has no chance to catch it and make it or attempt to make a play to catch the ball in the back of the end zone because he's 2 or 3 steps out of bounds. It's the fact they called that pass interference. They gave the ball to the Browns at the 1. They run it in and essentially won the game for the Browns. Second time in 2 weeks that that's happened for the Browns. The Browns last week played the 49ers. 23 calls last week against the 49ers. Let me rephrase. 23 accepted calls. It's probably close to the 30 in terms of actual calls. But on a 4th down play, PJ Walker throws the ball. It's not completed. Deshaun Gibson comes and destroys the wide receiver, in which they call hitting a defenseless receiver. But he wasn't a defenseless receiver. He wasn't. But they called it anyway. Then they called a holding penalty on Travarius Ward against Amari Cooper. It wasn't a holding penalty. It was just being very aggressive. But it wasn't a holding penalty. And when I came back with that knowledge, I was like, okay, the officials are really antsy to throw these flags now. Because the game is all focused on offense. The defenders have no opportunities. What happened to we decided we want the wide receiver and cornerback, if they are going to hand fight, to let that go? How many times does that happen? They don't allow it. There was one, I remember, in the game between the Chargers and Cowboys in SoFi Stadium on Monday Night Football. Stephon Gilmore does interfere with Keenan Allen. He does. But the problem was the ball wasn't catchable. It was too far. So how does Keenan Allen have a chance to catch that ball? He doesn't. But also, Keenan Allen gets his hands up too. So at what point do you say, okay, they're just going to hand fight? If they hand fight, we're going to let it go. They don't do that anymore. They used to. A couple years ago, they used to. And I felt it made the game more effective. But it's basic. We're all focused on offense. We're trying to score points, and points are down this year. So I think they're just going to continue to throw flags. It can continue teams like if you go and try to run the ball on 3rd and 4 and you only get 2, but hold on, there's an offsides when really the defender's not offsides. Let's just give them a free first down. It's what they do now. And I can give you a couple examples. The Eagles last night against the Dolphins ran the ball on a 3rd and 4 or 3rd and 5. They got about 3, but they called an offsides on Christian Wilkins, the Dolphins stud defensive lineman. And if you're saying, well, his hand's offsides, the rule for the offensive lineman is for anyone but the center, the tackle can be lined up to the tackle's helmet can be lined up to the waist of the center. I mean, he can be so far back there as long as his helmet is near the waist of the center, they're going to let it go. So you're telling me that can happen. But the hands of a defender who they play with their hands out like this, their head's back here, but their hands are over there, you're telling me that is not accepted, but the tackle can be so far back. Like, that can't happen. If you're saying the tackle can be that far back, then make the rule so, okay, as long as, like, your hands can be in the neutral zone, but as long as your helmet or half your helmet or neck down, as like your hands can be there, but as long as your neck or half your helmet is onside, it's not an offsides call. But they won't do that. Game is full based on offense. Now, granted, they did miss a lot of calls. The Eagles, we'll get into this a little bit later. The Eagles had no penalties. Not saying they shouldn't have had penalties. They had one guy who got tackled by his neck. A defender. Eagles had a good running play. But if you look, and I didn't even catch it until after the game on Twitter, the linebacker of the Dolphins runs and gets in the middle of the Eagles offensive line and gets grabbed by his neck and pulled down. That should have been a holding penalty. It wasn't called. So NFL officiating, be better. Also, NFL rules analysts. Rich Eisen said this on Tuesday. I'm reiterating it, but I'm changing it a bit. Rich Eisen said, John Perry, don't agree with every call the officials make if the officiating has been bad. If that's not the right call to make. If the officiating misses a call or musts a call, don't agree with the fact that they threw the flag on that call because it was not accurate. Everyone knows it's bull. So why are you defending it? Which, again, people have we'll get into this a little bit. People have a misconception that rules analysts work for the NFL. They don't. They work for the networks. Their job is to explain why this is a rule, why this is not a rule, why is this a penalty, why is this not a penalty. That's their job, to explain to the people who are just turned on the game for the first time. So they have no horse in this race. Okay? So just say, no, that's not a penalty, or no, that shouldn't have been a penalty call. Because I say the same thing, and I change a bit. Gene Steratore does the same thing on CBS. Same thing. My thing is, and I was kind of happy about it, Terry McAulay said it a couple times, no, that's not a flag, or no, it shouldn't, like, one of the Dolphins players was offsides, his hands were offsides, and according to the rule, that's a penalty, but he called offensive offsides as well. And it wasn't an offensive offsides. If anything, it would just been defensive offsides, and that was it. But I was happy that Terry McAulay made that decision. All right. I ran enough about this topic. Moving on to, let me make sure I go. Oh, yeah. Bill Belichick got his 300th win against the Buffalo Bills, in which a game that he played and his team played really well. They moved the ball well. They ran the ball well. They threw the ball well. They did not make a big mistake. I still think there's a little bit more that they need to work on. But if you play like that, you're going to win a lot of games. And I think they are finding their identity as they move along. They played really well against the Bills. Now, Josh Allen. I feel like the problem with Josh Allen is there's too many times where we look at Josh Allen like, is he good? Is he not good? We're being told he's good. And there's times he's really good, and then there's times he's just annoying because he makes bonehead mistakes. First game against the Jets, 3 interceptions to Whitehead, the safety of the Jets. Got him a signing bonus. He got a bonus if he had 3 interceptions. He had it all in one game. It's absurdity. He fumbles also in that game. That lost the Bills the game. Game against Jacksonville, similar thing. Fumbles late, cost them the game. After turnovers and stuff. But In this game, first play, first attempt of throwing the ball, intercepted. Jabril Peppers breaks on the ball, intercepts it. How many times is Josh Allen going to do this? The biggest fault of the Bills, the biggest rival to the Bills is the Bills. Let's be honest. It is the Bills. Their biggest strength and their biggest weakness are themselves. So don't do that again. Because it happened over and over again. You had a pass interference penalty that gave the Patriots a first down, first and goal, and they score a touchdown in that possession that won them the game. Let's be honest. Let's be honest with each other. That cost them the game. It did. So I'm a little concerned about how Josh Allen played. Bill Belichick got his 300th win. And I want to make sure I have this thing up proper. Hang on a second. Okay, yes. This is true. I wanted to make sure. Bill Belichick got what was reported agreed to with the Patriots, agreed to a new contract. A lucrative contract was the term that was used. Let me make sure I have this. It says Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots have reportedly agreed to an extension. This was all prior to the NFL season in 2023. It goes on and says Belichick is 19 and 21 since Brady left 3 years ago. And the past couple of weeks, Belichick's job security had been up in the air. This new contract squashes the speculation of Belichick being pushed out the door. Which Ian Rappaport stated that this new contract and lucrative contract basically, this contract's around to keep him as Belichick needs 18 wins to pass Don Shula for most regular season wins of all time. Now, Belichick already has the record for most wins of all time if you include playoffs, but that's not the rules we're going by in this particular point in time. He needs but actually they worded it wrong. He needs more than 18. He needs first off they messed that up. He needs 18 to pass Papa Bear George Halas or to tie Papa Bear George Halas. So just to be fair, okay? Next, the Ravens, in which we'll talk about the Ravens dismantling against the Lions. I don't think the Lions played well. I do think there was problematic things. Dan Campbell said that they needed this loss, which I think is fair. You need to come back to earth. Okay, we are this good, but let's not let it get to our heads. Let's play the game. Let's perform well. Let's do the things we need to do. With the Ravens, Lamar looked really good. Did everything. I enjoyed it. Now, before our game recap, it has been announced by the Niners that it looks like Trent Williams isn't going to play, and Deebo Samuel will be out for 2 weeks. But Christian McCaffrey, who has a slight tear in his oblique, is expected to play on Monday Night Football, in which on ESPN2, Peyton and Eli on the Manning cast for this game. Now, prior to Monday Night Football, our record after Sunday is 27-15. The Patriots and Bills are the first game we're going to discuss. The Patriots play really well on defense. Offense, a lot better. But I think the one thing I took out of this game, not just the fact the Patriots won. The commentators said this a couple times when they talked to Mac Jones. They said, Mac, what did you think about Bill O'Brien becoming your new OC? Or who O'Brien was the offensive coordinator for Mac Jones when Mac Jones was at Alabama. In which he says, yeah, I love having Bill. We have a great relationship. Our problem isn't Bill O'Brien. Our problem is we're not giving him opportunities to be good. Meaning we're playing really bad. It's nothing against Bill O'Brien. It's us. It's us as the players on the offense that are bad, which I don't disagree with. I think it's fair. I also think, man, I think sometimes they don't have the weapons. So if this is Mac Jones' last chance in New England, he's got to make this work as much as he can. They have 2 wins, including the one against Buffalo. Let's see what happens. Now, I would want to see them against tougher opponents, especially since the Bills haven't been good the last couple weeks. I want to see that. For the Bills, like I said, they haven't been good the last couple weeks. Bad penalty calls late in games that almost cost them the game or have cost them the game. Bad interceptions by Josh Allen. Josh Allen not playing well. There is problems. There is problems. But I don't think it's everything is bad. I think that they're just in this rough stretch of games in which teams play very well. So I'm going to say it's not over for the Bills, but if you're the Jets, you're happy. The 2 teams that you needed to lose, the Dolphins and the Bills, they lost. The one team you needed to win was the Patriots. Not that you beat the Patriots, but because the Patriots beat the Bills. There was someone you needed them to beat. That happened. So all's good for the Jets. A perfect bye week for the Jets. Next up, the Ravens beat the Lions 38-6 in a game where I thought the Ravens played really well. Lamar played really well. The Lions, not much of anything happened. They couldn't move the ball. I know David Montgomery did not play in this game, but I'm concerned if they are forced to play a brand or a style that they're not able to beat you down. I'm concerned on the lines just a bit. I think they can play their style against anyone, but it's hard when someone else can do that style better than you can. Next up, the Chiefs beat the Chargers 31-17. Now, before I get into this recap, I need to speak on this. How many of you, and vote in the comments, how many of you are tired of CBS or any of these networks showing Taylor Swift at these games? Raise your hand. Raise your hand with an emoji in the comments. I don't care. But I am fed up with it. It's everything. It's all over the place. And I said this. I had family watching this game with me, and I was like, I'm so fed up with this. She's there, okay, but we don't have to show her every 10 seconds. We don't have to show her. She doesn't affect the game at all. The same thing with Mahomes' wife. Why do we have to show her? She doesn't affect the game at all. At what point do you say, okay, we don't need to show her, or we don't need to show them? And I'm like, we don't need to show them every time there's a positive play. It's absurdity at times. It's absurdity. We don't need to show that. We don't need it. We are tired of seeing Taylor Swift at these games. And I have a fear of if the Chiefs do make the Super Bowl this year, that Taylor Swift's gonna be in the halftime show. It's supposed to be Usher. But if the Chiefs are in the Super Bowl, I wouldn't be surprised if Taylor Swift has his part in the halftime show. I wouldn't be surprised. Because that's how annoyed, like, she's thrown into everything, and it's annoying. It's people that don't affect the game. They don't pay the players. The fans are not cheering for them in terms of they aren't on the field playing. The players are playing. The fans are cheering the players. They're not part of the owners. Just because you date them or married them does not mean you deserve more camera time. You don't affect. How many times did we talk about when Brady was married to Giselle? If Giselle was in the game, how many times did how many times did we pan over? We never really did. So maybe periodically, but not at the frequent rate that they're doing it. It makes no sense. And that was a supermodel. This is a singer. And this is not the first time this has happened. It's not the first time someone dated a singer in the NFL. It won't be the last. So why are we making it such a big deal? It makes no sense. But anyway, I digress. In this game between the Chiefs and the Chargers, there was very little defense in the beginning. The Chiefs clamped down the Chargers. I think, though, there is a thing we have to talk about. And Dan Patrick talked about it on Tuesday. He was the only one to talk about it. In terms of Justin Herbert, because everyone's saying, oh my gosh, he's great, the Chargers are bad. Look at the games. Justin Herbert, prior to this game against the Chiefs, was a 500 starter. 500. That was it. 500. After losing to the Cowboys, he was a 500 starter. I believe he's 26, 26, and 1. That's not good. It might be closer to 24, 24, and 1. But that's still not good. But he goes, plays Dallas. He never looks comfortable. They get pressure on him. They don't get sacks on him, but they pressure him. He doesn't look comfortable. Late in the game, he throws an interception because the pressure got to him finally and throws an interception. Same thing happened here. Pressure, not a whole lot of sacks. Never looked quite comfortable as the game went on. Couple of interceptions. One was a bad interception. You can't blame him for that. But the other one, you can't. You can't. They actually showed, Dan Patrick talked about this on his show. It's not like Justin Herbert's been a good quarterback in the fourth quarter. He's been good in the first 3, but he's terrible in the last one. He actually leads the league in interceptions in the fourth quarter. He does. It makes no sense. They throw so many interceptions in the fourth quarter. And you can blame Staley or the offensive coordinators that come in and come out. Now you have Kellen Moore, but I really don't think you can blame the offensive coordinators if the quarterback's not seeing it play. But if you look at all these other sports channels, you don't hear them talk about Justin Herbert that way. You hear them talk about, oh, he's an exceptional athlete, the arm strength, the height, he's everything you want to be, except in the fourth quarter. Except in the fourth quarter, he's not good. It's plain and simple. Mahomes looked good. Kelsey had a big game. They actually showed a stat of when Swift is in the building, Kelsey goes off, and when he's not, he doesn't. But again, it's like, why do we need to see that? Why? And it's not like the Chargers covered him in any way. They just left him open the whole time. So, but again, we need to see that stat. Why? Why? Makes no sense. Why? Why do we need to see that? We don't. And yet CBS is showing us this because they are head over heels. And finally, Eagles, Dolphins. There's a lot going on. The Eagles beat the Dolphins 31-17. Prior to this game starting, Chris Collinsworth went and said, or the broadcasting team, I think, both said it, the Dolphins, against prior opponents heading into this game, their records were 5 and I think 21. Okay? It might be more than that, but I'm giving a rough estimate. I know there was 5. The teams they went had a combined total of 5 wins. Okay? But next up to that was this was their biggest test. The Dolphins did not play well. The Dolphins didn't push the ball down the field. They couldn't really run the ball. They lost. They didn't have 3 of their offensive linemen playing. Left guard was out. Center was out. Tackles out. Jalen Waddle came out at the game because he had a back injury. But when they did push the ball down the field, they had success. So it wasn't like they couldn't push the ball down the field. For the Eagles, defensively, they were good. They were really good in this game. Offensively, it was 17-3, and midway through the third quarter, it was 17-17. Not great. They put it on. They turned it on 14 straight points. Dolphins didn't score again, but they're shaky at times, and that's concerning. Have we seen a team that's 5-1 that's this shaky? I don't know. I really don't know. Now they did win the game. That's great. That's awesome. They're 6-1 now. They faced Washington, who beat the Giants and brought you to the wire when you faced each other in week 4. So let's see what happens. And then after you get Dallas, and that I believe is a Sunday night football game. That's going to be very exciting. And I won't be able to sleep that whole night before. But I think in this game even proved it. The tush push needs to be banned from the NFL. It needs to be. They've run it in the past 2 years. They've run it 60 plus times with I think they have 55 of 62. So it's not. They're like 55, 56, and 62 when they run the tush push. It's annoying. And I think the NFL will ban it, especially as there are players getting hurt on it. I think it's more of if an Eagles player gets hurt, whether it happens because they run the play or a team runs the play against them, I could see it happening. I could see the NFL saying, okay, an Eagles player got hurt, we're banning this play. It's gone. Goodbye. And then what is Nick Sirianni gonna do at that point? As he said, when it's 1st and 10, it's really 1st and 9, knowing we can go and run that play. Well, if they can't do it, and I know I'm not allowed to really curse, but what are they gonna bitch about then? Heading into Wednesday in this game on Monday Night Football, I still have the 49ers winning pretty easily with the score of 35-14 over the Minnesota Vikings. For NFL World, I'm Jacob Hebert.